It's a hard reality, but certain healthy nuts you've consumed for decades might be undermining your brain function at this very moment. And consider the possibility that a single dietary adjustment could help preserve your cognitive sharpness for many more years. Look, I don't typically create messages with this level of urgency, but witnessing my father's ordeal compelled me to speak out. I urge you to watch until the very end, as I'll reveal the precise daily routine that is aiding countless older adults in recovering their mental acuity. This is a reality the food industry prefers you don't consider. A hidden fact. There is a critical concept I need you to grasp, one that is almost entirely overlooked in public health discussions. With advancing years, our body's chemistry for processing food undergoes a transformation, particularly with nuts. A food that was beneficial in your 40s and 50s can become a source of trouble in your 60s, 70s, or even 80s. This has nothing to do with standard allergies or food intolerances. It's a more fundamental biochemical alteration within our systems as we grow older, impacting how we handle specific fatty acids and chemical compounds present in certain nuts. Studies highlighting this have been emerging slowly for about a decade, but they don't capture media attention. Honestly, there's little commercial incentive in advising people to skip specific food items. The health product market wants you purchasing every item on the aisle without questioning it. I'm here to share what your physician may have never mentioned. For seniors, the choice of nut is monumentally important for brain wellness, cardiac health, and total lifespan. What you are about to discover was a game changer for my entire family, and I am confident it can be for you or your family members too. A personal awakening. 4 years back, my father began showing signs of forgetfulness. It started with minor incidents: misplacing his glasses, forgetting a neighbor's name, being unsure of the day. We brushed it off as normal senior moments. He was 76 after all. The alarm bell rang on the morning he called me, utterly confused about brewing his coffee, a ritual he'd performed daily for 5 decades. That was the moment I realized a serious issue was unfolding. Medical professionals conducted evaluations, spoke of standard cognitive decline, and provided little optimism beyond pharmaceuticals with side effects that looked worse than the issue itself. I refused to believe that this intelligent man, who established his own company, brought up 3 kids, and used to recite long poems from memory, was simply fated to lose his cognitive faculties bit by bit. That's when I plunged into extensive research, getting in touch with longevity experts and neurologists operating outside the conventional healthcare framework. My discovery about the link between certain foods and neuroinflammation altered our entire perspective, especially concerning nuts, which had been a core part of my dad's presumed heart-healthy regimen. The unseen hazard. This is what the vast majority of people fail to grasp. Not all nuts are beneficial in the same way, and some varieties may actually hasten the erosion of mental acuity in older adults due to their particular fatty acid makeup and inflammatory nature. The initial nut seniors ought to be wary of is the cashew. Although tasty and seemingly benign, cashews possess one of the highest carbohydrate levels among all nuts, which can trigger disruptive blood sugar increases in older individuals whose natural insulin response has weakened. These glucose level swings are directly correlated with worsened brain fog and cognitive decline over the long term. Moreover, cashews have oxalates, chemical compounds that can foster inflammation in susceptible people, especially those over 68 whose bodies' purification systems are not as robust as they used to be. This inflammatory state isn't confined to the digestive system. It can circulate system-wide and impact brain tissue, fueling a cognitive deterioration that is frequently mislabeled as simple aging. Yet, there is nothing simple about forfeiting your memories, your character, your very essence. The unexpected risk. The second nut on our warning list could be a surprise: peanuts. While they are technically legumes, not true nuts, peanuts introduce several issues for older adults prioritizing brain wellness. For one, they are a frequent source of aflatoxins, which are microscopic poisons created by molds that can infest peanuts. As we age, our capacity to neutralize these poisons lessens, enabling them to build up and potentially add to neurological strain. Research has indicated a connection between sustained aflatoxin exposure and diminished cognitive abilities, particularly in seniors who have pre-existing immune challenges. On top of that, the omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acid ratio in peanuts is skewed towards promoting inflammation instead of calming it. For the aging brain, which is already confronting an upward struggle against natural inflammatory trends, this added inflammatory burden from a daily peanut snack can worsen cognitive difficulties. I saw my own father fight to recall his grandchildren's names while he was eating handfuls of peanuts as his go-to-health snack. The linkage was too stark to dismiss. The hidden detriment. The third nut seniors ought to reassess is the Brazil nut, but this comes with a significant condition: While these nuts are phenomenal repositories of selenium, a potent antioxidant crucial for brain wellness, this benefit can swiftly turn into a danger with excessive intake. Merely 2 Brazil nuts can supply more than the entire daily requirement of selenium. For older adults who regularly consume them by the handful, this can result in selenium toxicity with signs like nausea, agitation, and, in serious instances, nerve impairment that resembles early signs of dementia. I have encountered well-meaning seniors who integrated Brazil nuts into their daily diet, not knowing they were potentially creating a selenium overload. The cognitive consequences of such an overload are especially misleading because they show up as memory problems or mood swings, symptoms commonly chalked up to just part of getting older, instead of a dietary problem that can be fixed. This is profoundly worrying since these issues are seldom traced back to what appears to be such a wholesome food. The surprising liability. The fourth nut that requires a second look might be the most debated on this list: non-organic almonds. While almonds in their pure form provide outstanding benefits, the issue is rooted in how most commercial almonds are cultivated. In many nations, a majority of them are subjected to chemical sprays and fumigation techniques that deposit residues which the aging body's detox systems have a hard time eliminating. This chemical load can feed into what neuroscientists now refer to as toxic burden syndrome, a condition where an accumulation of environmental poisons starts to impair cognitive ability. Older adults are especially susceptible because their blood-brain barrier tends to become more porous with age, giving these toxins greater access to fragile brain cells. Furthermore, non-organic almonds frequently have elevated amounts of inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids due to industrial farming methods, which presents another potential driver of brain inflammation. When my father switched from commercial to organic, genuinely raw almonds as a component of his brain wellness plan, we observed enhancements in his mental sharpness within a few weeks, an outcome his physicians had declared was out of the question. The crucial change. Now let's discuss transformation. As my father started to cut out these troublesome nuts and integrate the 4 brain-enhancing alternatives I am about to outline, we saw developments that the medical community had deemed impossible. His mental cloudiness began to dissipate. His memory failures occurred less often. His essential character, that unique quality that defines a person, started to re-emerge. The physician who had previously told us this deterioration was just aging could not account for the improvements on his cognitive evaluations half a year later. But we understood. We had stumbled upon what pioneering neurologists and longevity researchers are just now starting to grasp, that particular foods exert specific influences on the senior brain. Making these calculated swaps can literally alter the path of cognitive aging. This is not about magical remedies. It's about collaborating with your body's evolving biochemistry to supply your brain with precisely what it requires while sidestepping what causes harm. The wisdom of ages. It's truly compelling that much of what contemporary nutritional science is revealing about cognitive health was known within ancient healing arts many centuries ago. In traditional Persian medicine, for instance, certain nuts were designated for the elderly to preserve what they called the mind's light. In essence, cognitive sharpness and vitality. The specific nuts they favored closely mirror what our current research is validating about anti-inflammatory agents and brain-specific nutrients. Likewise, Ayurvedic traditions from India classified nuts based on their influence on the aging physique, offering recommendations that align remarkably well with today's knowledge about which nuts fortify neurological health in the elderly. It seems our forebears had an intuitive grasp of connections we are only now validating with scientific methods. This fusion of age-old wisdom with modern-day science is the bedrock of the suggestions I'm about to give you, which helped my dad reclaim cognitive abilities when conventional medicine had no answers. Revitalizing the brain. Allow me to present the first brain-fortifying nut that should be a daily cornerstone for every senior worried about their mental wellness: walnuts. There is a solid reason these nuts look like miniature brains. They are nature's ideal nourishment for cognitive acuity. Walnuts have the most alpha-linolenic acid LA, a plant-derived omega-3 fatty acid, among all nuts. This particular omega-3 has been proven to effectively pass through the blood-brain barrier, feeding neural cells and encouraging the creation of new brain pathways, even in older brains once considered to be largely unchangeable. A major study from Johns Hopkins University showed that walnut intake was directly associated with better scores on cognitive tests in seniors, irrespective of other variables. In addition, walnuts are packed with potent antioxidants that assist in counteracting free radical damage to brain cells, a type of damage that intensifies significantly as we age. When my father began to eat just 6 walnuts a day, we saw clear improvements in his ability to articulate his thoughts and recall information within weeks. The science indicates this was not mere chance, but his brain getting exactly the nutrient it was missing. Cellular defense. The second nut that merits a permanent spot in every older adult's nutritional plan is the pecan. Frequently passed over for trendier choices, pecans harbor unique antioxidants known as proanthocyanidins that have shown astonishing abilities in safeguarding aging brain cells. These specific compounds are particularly drawn to neural tissue, helping to protect delicate brain structures from the oxidative harm that quickens cognitive deterioration. What renders pecans so vital for seniors is their substantial vitamin E content, a nutrient that becomes progressively more essential for brain health after the age of 68. Numerous long-term studies reveal that adequate vitamin E intake is strongly linked to preserved mental function in later life. Yet, well over 85% of older adults do not get enough of this vital nutrient. Pecans also contain monounsaturated fats that aid in healthy blood circulation, which is critical for transporting oxygen and nourishment to the brain. When my dad added a small handful of pecans to his daily routine along with the walnuts, his neurologist remarked on enhancements in his mental processing speed that went against every expectation for a person with his initial condition. A boost for memory. The third nut deserving of acknowledgement for its exceptional brain protective benefits is the pistachio. These uniquely green nuts are rich in compounds that directly benefit vascular health, which is incredibly important because robust blood vessels are vital for cognitive performance. The mix of antioxidants, B-group vitamins, and specific plant-based chemicals in pistachios aids in preserving the structural soundness of the microscopic blood vessels that supply the brain. As we get older, these tiny vessels can often suffer damage from things like glycation and oxidation, which diminishes cerebral blood flow and leads to the silent microstrokes that are a major factor in cognitive decline. Consistent pistachio intake has been tied to better blood lipid numbers and improved vasodilation, which is the capacity of blood vessels to widen as needed to get optimal blood flow precisely to where it's needed. Moreover, pistachios provide lutein and zeaxanthin, carotenoids generally linked to eye wellness but now also known for their importance in maintaining cognitive function. The connection between the brain and eyes is deep, and these nutrients fortify both systems at the same time, a neurological gem. The fourth nut that completes our brain support protocol is quite possibly the most underrated in American nutrition, the modest pine nut. These tiny oblong nuts have been highly regarded in traditional healing systems for ages, specifically for their positive impact on brain wellness and long-term cognitive vitality. Contemporary studies are now confirming our ancestors' insights. Pine nuts have an unusually high concentration of phenolenic acid, an uncommon fatty acid that assists in managing inflammation through various channels. For seniors, whose brain inflammation levels naturally rise with age, this innate anti-inflammatory action can be life-changing. Pine nuts are also a great source of manganese, a mineral vital for the function of mitochondria within brain cells. Mitochondria act as the power generators for your cells, and while their performance naturally wanes with age, excellent nutrition can greatly slow this process. During my father's recovery, incorporating just 1 teaspoon of pine nuts daily into his diet corresponded with visible boosts in his energy and mental stamina. He was able to concentrate for longer periods without getting mentally exhausted, a frequent issue associated with cognitive deterioration. The daily ritual. Now, allow me to detail the specific daily routine that rebooted my father's cognitive health, a straightforward practice that anyone can adopt, regardless of cooking abilities or time limitations. Its simplicity is its strength. The most effective health changes are frequently the most sustainable ones. Every single morning, he combines 1 teaspoon each of freshly milled walnuts, pecans, pistachios, and pine nuts, what we now call his Neuro blend. He mixes this into a bowl of organic unsweetened yogurt, adding a half teaspoon of high-grade raw honey from local sources if available, and a light dusting of Ceylon cinnamon, which also has its own substantial research support for brain health. This simple concoction gives his aging brain the exact nutrients required to combat inflammation, foster new neural pathways, safeguard existing brain cells, and enhance blood supply to the brain. The probiotics in the yogurt contribute to gut wellness, which studies increasingly show is directly tied to brain function via the gut-brain axis. The whole preparation requires under 3 minutes yet provides benefits that extend throughout the entire day, lasting energy, sharper memory recall, better emotional balance, and, over time, a revival of cognitive capacities we were informed were irretrievably lost. The scientific underpinning. I want to be entirely straightforward about the science supporting these suggestions because comprehending the why is equally as vital as knowing the what. The brain protective qualities of the nuts I've suggested originate from several mechanisms that work together in synergy. Firstly, they all supply complementary antioxidants that assist in neutralizing the free radical damage that intensifies greatly in the aging brain. Secondly, they provide specific fatty acids that act as the fundamental materials for neural membranes and myelin sheaths, the insulating layers around nerve fibers that frequently degrade with age. Thirdly, they possess compounds that regulate neuroinflammation across various biochemical routes, tackling one of the main drivers of cognitive decline. Fourthly, they offer nutrients that promote healthy cerebral vascular function, guaranteeing an optimal flow of blood to brain tissues. And fifth, they contain elements shown to encourage neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to create new connections and adapt, which was formerly believed to decline sharply with age, but is now known to be viable throughout life when properly supported. This multi-faceted approach doesn't just address a single facet of brain aging, but the whole interconnected system, more than just data. What I'm presenting extends beyond scientific papers and controlled studies, although they certainly back up our method. The true confirmation appeared as I watched my father steadily become himself again. 6 months after starting these adjustments, he called me one morning, thrilled to describe a crossword puzzle he'd just completed, one he hadn't been able to solve for years. I thought my mind was just getting dull, he said, his voice filled with emotion. But it feels like it's waking up again. 4 months after that, he began volunteering at a local library, helping others with computer skills, something that would have been unthinkable a year prior. At his subsequent cognitive checkup, his physician was so taken aback by the progress that he requested a detailed log of every change we had made. When we laid out our nutritional strategy, he was initially doubtful but could not argue with the results presented in the tests. Whatever it is you're doing, he conceded, it's working. Today, 2.5 years later, my father hosts a small brain health club, sharing his story and helping fellow seniors apply these very same principles. The man who was once lost making coffee now explains complex ideas he reads about in nutritional science journals. The societal blind spot. There is something profoundly troubling about our society's default attitude towards cognitive decline in our elderly. We have accepted memory loss, disorientation, and reduced mental sharpness as just a normal aspect of getting old, as if losing one's mind were a mandatory sentence for a long life. This defeatist mindset helps no one, except perhaps for industries that benefit from dependency and deterioration. The reality now coming to light from advanced research in neuroplasticity and nutritional science presents a vastly different picture, that significant parts of cognitive decline are likely preventable, and in certain instances, partially reversible with targeted nutritional changes and lifestyle adjustments. Although genetics and accumulated life factors surely have an impact, the brain's amazing capacity to adapt and react to proper nourishment is preserved well into our advanced years. This isn't to disregard the reality of diseases like Alzheimer's or vascular dementia. It's to acknowledge that within the wide spectrum of cognitive aging, we possess far more agency than we ever thought possible. My father's story serves as a living testament that embracing cognitive decline as unavoidable is a huge injustice to millions of seniors who could benefit from changes as basic as swapping the types of nuts they eat each day. The wisdom of implementation. Now allow me to go over some practical details for making these changes, because knowledge without action leads to no change. Firstly, quality is paramount. Choose organic varieties of these nuts whenever you can, particularly for walnuts and pecans, as they are among the most heavily sprayed crops. Secondly, freshness is key. The beneficial fats in nuts are fragile and can turn rancid when exposed to heat, light, and air for too long. Purchase nuts in smaller batches. Keep them in sealed containers in your fridge, and think about freezing any portion you won't use within a few weeks. Thirdly, activating them by soaking can greatly improve nutrient absorption. Simply steeping nuts in filtered water for 6-8 hours gets rid of enzyme inhibitors that can hinder digestion and nutrient uptake, which is especially important for seniors whose digestive systems have naturally slowed down. Fourthly, grinding the nuts right before you eat them guarantees the highest nutrient retention and makes them easier to digest. A basic coffee grinder used only for nuts makes this task fast and simple. And fifth, consistency is more important than volume. Small, regular daily amounts yield more advantages than larger quantities consumed inconsistently, overcoming common myths. Before moving on, I must clear up some frequent misunderstandings that could stop people from putting these suggestions into practice effectively. First is the idea that all nuts offer the same health benefits. As we've seen, the unique nutritional content and chemical makeup of different nuts produce vastly different outcomes in the aging brain. Second, the mistaken belief that raw nuts are inherently superior to roasted ones. While raw nuts do retain certain heat-labile nutrients, light roasting can actually enhance the accessibility of other beneficial compounds. The main point is to stay away from high-heat industrial roasting methods. Third, the notion that organic only matters for fruits and vegetables, not nuts. The reality is the high fat content in nuts makes them particularly adept at absorbing and storing pesticides, which makes organic choices much better for brain wellness. Fourth, the assumption that nut allergies mean these benefits are off limits. Many individuals with allergies to specific nuts can safely eat others from unrelated botanical groups. And fifth, the misconception that these nutritional tactics are somehow at odds with standard medical care. In truth, they work alongside proper medical supervision, and any senior experiencing cognitive issues should consult with healthcare professionals while adopting nutritional strategies. A deeper understanding what makes these particular dietary shifts so effective is how perfectly they target the specific vulnerabilities of the aging brain. As we enter our senior years, several key transformations happen that are not properly addressed by general diet advice. The blood-brain barrier grows more permeable, letting more toxins and inflammatory agents reach our neural cells. Mitochondrial function falters, diminishing the energy supplied to brain cells. The production of acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter crucial for memory and learning, drops off sharply. Neuroinflammation rises through various channels. And most crucially, brain tissues become more susceptible to oxidative stress while concurrently generating more free radicals from normal metabolism. Each of the nuts I've recommended contains compounds that specifically target these age-related vulnerabilities. Walnuts bring ALA, which helps fortify the cell membranes of neurons. Pecans offer unique antioxidants that combat the specific free radicals most harmful to brain tissue. Pistachios bolster the vascular system to ensure sufficient blood gets to the brain. And pine nuts supply anti-inflammatory agents that help manage the neuroinflammation that speeds up cognitive deterioration. A worldwide perspective, it is truly remarkable to see that cultures with historically low instances of cognitive decline frequently feature these particular nuts in their traditional diets. Mediterranean populations, where walnut intake is one of the highest globally, exhibit exceptional cognitive strength well into their later years. Certain areas in China, where pine nuts have been esteemed as longevity enhancers for generations, display similar trends of well-maintained cognitive ability. Indigenous groups in North America who historically ate pecans regularly have recorded histories of elders keeping outstanding mental acuity into old age. These observations from a range of traditional cultures offer real-world evidence for what clinical trials are now verifying, that certain foods can powerfully shape the cognitive paths of aging populations. While this connection doesn't definitively prove causation, these uniform patterns across different genetic groups point to a fundamentally protective quality in these specific dietary components, something modern science is just now starting to fully comprehend. Putting it into practice, let me offer some functional methods for integrating these brain-fortifying nuts into your daily life beyond the morning routine I've outlined. For those who aren't fond of yogurt, the ground nut blend can be mixed into a morning smoothie with berries, which are themselves potent brain foods, and a plant-based milk like oat or almond milk. Another possibility is to mix the ground nuts into your oatmeal with cinnamon and perhaps some blueberries for an extra cognitive boost. At lunchtime, a teaspoon or two of the blend can be sprinkled on salads, contributing not only brain nutrition but also a pleasing texture and taste. Some older adults find it useful to prepare a weekly batch of energy bites by mixing the ground nuts with a bit of raw honey, cinnamon, and maybe some dried cranberries or blueberries, creating easy-to-grab, pre-portioned brain nutrition that they can have as a snack. The essential thing is to find ways of preparation that you find tasty and easy to maintain, as regularity yields the greatest results. Even the most beneficial foods are of little use if they go uneaten due to dislike of their taste or difficulty in preparation. The holistic picture. Although our main topic today has been nuts, I would be irresponsible not to put these suggestions into the larger framework of a brain-healthy lifestyle. The advantages of these nuts are magnified when they are part of a complete neuroprotective lifestyle, consistent physical exercise that boosts blood supply to the brain, quality sleep which is necessary for crucial neural cleanup and memory storage, stress reduction techniques that lessen the harmful impact of cortisol on brain structures, cognitive engagement through acquiring new skills and tackling new challenges, and social interaction that offers emotional connection and complex personal exchanges which exercise various brain areas at once. My father's astonishing progress was not just from altering which nuts he ate, but from incorporating those dietary changes into a holistic approach to brain health that included all these elements. The nuts provided the crucial raw materials, but the comprehensive lifestyle established the right conditions for his brain to use those nutrients to their fullest potential. The path forward. As you think about adopting these suggestions, I recommend a patient and observant mindset. Cognitive wellness rarely transforms instantly. Just as the decline tends to be gradual, the improvements usually become visible over weeks and months, not days. Maintain a simple log to track changes in particular cognitive areas, the ease of recalling names or words, navigational abilities, concentration span, mental stamina, emotional stability, and quality of sleep, which frequently gets better as cognitive function does. These notes give you valuable information about what is effective and what might require tweaking. For some seniors, the complete protocol I've detailed yields clear benefits within weeks. For others facing more deep-seated cognitive difficulties, it might be 3 to 6 months before substantial improvements are seen. The factors influencing response time include current nutritional deficiencies, overall health status, drug interactions, digestive health and absorption capability, and the length and seriousness of cognitive problems before starting. Patience and consistency are vital companions on this path. The empowering truth. As we near our conclusion, I wish to share what might be the most crucial lesson my family learned on our journey through cognitive decline and recovery. You have agency even when you've been told you don't. The standard story about brain aging, that deterioration is unavoidable and mostly incurable, becomes a self-fulfilling belief for millions of older adults who accept reduced function as their unchangeable destiny. This story endures not because it's scientifically sound, but because it is convenient for systems not equipped to foster cognitive optimization in our aging population. The truth is much more liberating. While we don't control every aspect of brain aging, we hold substantial sway over many of the variables that shape our cognitive paths. An action as straightforward as consciously choosing which nuts to eat or skip daily can set off biochemical reactions with profound consequences for brain wellness. My father's experience is not a miracle or an anomaly. It simply illustrates what is achievable when we reject defeatist ideas about aging and instead make well-informed, deliberate choices based on emerging science paired with ancient wisdom about nourishing the older brain. The final insight. Let me offer you this last idea, one that has fundamentally altered my perspective on aging and brain wellness. The human brain, irrespective of age, stays incredibly responsive to how we care for it. Until my father's very last day, his neural pathways will carry on adapting, creating new links, and reacting to the signals he provides, whether those signals support or harm his cognitive abilities. The same is true for every one of us and for every senior we cherish. This adaptable, pliable nature of our brains never vanishes entirely, though it may demand more specific, steady support as we grow older. The 4 nuts to be cautious with: cashew nuts, excessive Brazil nuts, and non-organic almonds can impose inflammatory and toxic loads that hasten cognitive decline. The 4 nuts to make a staple: walnuts, pecans, pistachios, and pine nuts offer particular compounds that foster neural health, diminish inflammation, defend against oxidative harm, and encourage healthy blood supply to the brain. This understanding is more than just trivia. It is a potent instrument for anyone aiming to preserve or enhance cognitive ability in their later years. The things we do consistently, day by day, progressively redefine the destiny of our brain health. Every morning when my dad makes his nut blend, he isn't merely preparing a meal. He's making a conscious decision about the state of mind he will have tomorrow, next year, and for all the years to come. That very same choice is available to you right now. What will you choose? Before we part, I need you to fully grasp the influence you possess. Cognitive decline is not a predetermined fate. It's a journey affected by innumerable daily decisions, including significant nutritional ones like those we've covered today. If you or a loved one is worried about brain wellness as you age, please remember that action always surpasses information. Don't simply watch this and forget it. Take one real step forward today, even if it's as minor as clearing the cashews from your cupboard or planning to add 6 walnuts to your breakfast tomorrow. The path to cognitive recovery and preservation is taken one day, one meal, one nut at a time. Your brain is tuned into every decision you make. Decide to feed it with intention, with consistency, and with the specific nourishment it craves as you age. The gap between cognitive difficulty and cognitive vibrancy often narrows down to these seemingly minor but biochemically impactful choices. The person you will be in the future is being shaped by your actions today. With the knowledge you now possess, choose with wisdom.